If this is your first time joining us, welcome. You are in the right place. Here on the Walking in Aloha podcast, Aloha is more than just a word or just a greeting, it's a way of living and healing. Aloha is an acronym that guides us through our conversations and our lives. A, affirmations and actions. L, leadership and love. O, overcoming obstacles. H, health and healing. And A, acute awareness. Each episode, sorry, I still have this code if you guys don't remember from the last one. We walk through these pillars with real people, real stories, and real transformation because growth doesn't just happen through, listen to that frog. Through shame and change. It doesn't happen just by accident. But today's guest is someone who speaks directly to the exhaustion so many people feel from constantly starting over. I am honored to welcome Eryn Kubinski, speaker, health and mental fitness coach, and identity based behavior change specialist. She's a coach, speaker, and a mom. Erin helps high achieving professionals break free from self sabotaging habits, not through more willpower, but by understanding how the brain actually works. With a background in physical therapy and neuroscience, informed coaching, she teaches people how to stop restarting and start becoming by shifting identity, rewiring patterns, and building self trust that lasts in real life. Before we talk through the Aloha framework, as we always do, Erin, we would love to hear you give a little bit of what you do and how you came to this. So, can you share a little bit about your journey and what led you into helping people break the cycle of starting over and stepping into lasting change?
Yeah, so thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be sitting here having this conversation with you this evening. I started my journey as a young kid wanting to help people. And as a little kid, I went to go see my great uncle, and I just wanted to help him move and be healthier. And so it is my mission to make this world a healthier place, one person at a time, one mind at a time. And, as I went through life as a physical therapist, I stuck with my mission and I helped people get better. But one of the things that I really learned as a physical therapist is getting people to do the work is the work. Right? You can teach them all the things, but then getting them to practice it at home, which I think I kind of like, that was one of my good qualities as a physical therapist, was I could dose out just enough that they would do it. And um, then moving on, like I was a professional athlete and I coached other people. So it's always about trying to get people to make decisions and choices and how to help them step into the identity that they really want to become. As you coach somebody, whether it's to become an athlete or you coaching them to become a healthier version of themselves, get them to see the outcome before they get there. And they have to believe in the outcome before they get there. And once you start to get that, then you can get some momentum into really making them have that change.
Wow. That's so good. Like you said, helping your uncle, because like in Hawaii, that's the one thing that we always talk about is, ohana, which is family, right? And I love that, helping out the family. So we'll go into the Aloha Always framework, which starts with a affirmations and actions. So many people believe change is about trying harder, and but that often leads to just burnout. And I know burnout because I try to do everything and it's not always you know, it's not always a good thing. You think it is because you feel like you're doing a lot, but really, it really just makes you do less, right? When you're pushing.
Yeah.
When someone feels stuck in that self sabotage, what belief or internal narrative do you see them holding back the the most? Like, what do you see holding them back the most?
So I think one, there's probably the obvious thing they're saying, right? Like,
Hmm.
it's hard, or I am struggling, or I don't have enough. It's the scarcity mindset or scarcity part of them talking. That would be probably the obvious one, but underneath, there's normally this victim mentality. So in that self-sabotage, victim, is probably the sneakiest of all of them, and it's one we don't want to admit that we're a victim, and when we can kind of start to step out of that victim mode, then we can really stop self-sabotaging.
Mm, yeah. How do affirmations and internal language, how, let me read that again.
That's
How
right.
do affirmations or internal language actually impact the brain and behavior? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, so what we when we're doing brain work and we're trying to what we're trying to do is lay down a new neural pathway, a new way of thinking, right? So if you have somebody who's like, "Oh, I'm just struggling with da 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 da," you want to then catch it, and then you don't want to try to turn it around, right? Very first thing is just become aware that you're saying it. And
Oh,
then once you become aware of something and how much you're saying it and what are you saying it around, and then you can kind of keep like even a little journal entry of like how many times am I saying the word that I struggle every day, or how many times am I kind of like saying this negative thought pattern every day? Then you can start to change it, right? So awareness is always the first step before you start shifting the affirmation. And then you can see like, okay, every time I say that, I'm like laying down this neural pathway that this is the way I'm going to act. This is the way I'm going to behave. If I say it's a struggle, I'm going to act like it's a struggle. Then you can just start to stop it, right? So you can pick a word. It could be stop, it could be change, it could be butterfly, whatever word you want. But when you hear yourself say, like let's just say somebody's working on like it's such a struggle. When you hear yourself, you would just say butterfly.
so
Just
good.
cut off the pathway that we have been creating, right? We've been creating this pathway over and over. And then after you've done that for a little bit, now you can start to question, is it really a struggle? And then you want to just kind of like talk your question like, is this a struggle or am I making it a struggle? And then you
Mm,
start looking for evidence because our brain loves to find evidence of where maybe it's for first other people. Well, it's not a struggle for her. Like if they can do it, I can do it too, kind of attitude. Then you start looking in other areas of your life where you're not struggling. Well, if I'm not struggling there, then I don't need to struggle here. And then you start looking for evidence of the struggle, right? Am I really struggling or am I just like putting a magnifying glass on it and it looks more like a struggle? Well, actually, I'm not really struggling. I just don't like doing this thing. And then we can say, okay, well, we can just reword the struggle to something more positive, right? So this is not my favorite task, but this task is necessary for me to, or
yeah.
this task is necessary for me to live a healthy, strong life, right? Like, so like if you don't like going to the gym or working out, right? Like you'd have to come up with like, yes, this is not my favorite thing, but I want to be able to like, this is, my physical therapy days, like I want to be able to sit down on the toilet and get off the toilet for the rest of my life without having someone to pick me up and put me on the toilet, right? Like who wants
Yeah.
that? Well, that's a good reason to go to the gym and do some squats.
Exactly. That is so good. You know, I was just on Tony Robbins' Time to Rise, the summit, and he was mentioning on the bonus day that we just had, and how people always say like um, my illness or my, so, my. And he was talking about how that people should not do that. Like, why are you owning it? Right? Why are you taking ownership of this thing, you know? So he was saying, like, count how many times you say that. And he was going over the recordings of people wanting to make change in their life and all this stuff, because you know how you go in and you make your own recordings of, I want to make this change in my life and do this great thing. But they would always say, my illness or my problem or my, and then he'd be like, wait, what? Why are you taking claim to those things? You know, you're like owning it instead of owning the thing that you want better for you. You're owning the bad part. And so I think that's what you're talking about, right? Those neural pathways. You're like claiming all the bad stuff instead of owning the good. So good, so good.
Right? Like if it's my disease, then if you can, there's a lot of ways to look at this, and you could get religious about it, but like, is it really yours? Like, and
Yeah.
and if it's not, it is easier to see it as a separate thing in your body, like a separate energy in your body that you can release.
Yeah, so true. So, what is one small, realistic action someone can take today to begin shifting identity, not just those habits?
So the foundation of the work I do, and the foundation of the work that I think has really changed my life, is learning how to sit with a quiet mind.
Mm.
And it can be done while I'm sitting here talking to you. So it's not a meditation practice, but it's about getting centered and focused. So dropping into your senses and out of your, me sitting here like, how am I going to answer that question? Like, just really getting super present with my vision, right? So like, I'm very detailed of like the background of the waves, right? That's a very good brain training right there. So I can get really like staying in the moment, out of my thinking brain, and just kind of like I told you at the beginning, I was going to just speak from my heart, right? Like, so you can use your eyes to focus on something without thinking about it. You can use your ears. So like sometimes when I'm walking, I'll just listen to my footsteps. So that will help me get out of my thinking brain. Then you can use the sensation of touch, and kind of going back to like when I'm walking, I pay attention to the bottom of my feet and how it feels, like just noticing the sensation on the bottom of my feet. You can just rub your fingers together and bring your attention to touch. And some very good leaders in this world do this. You've heard about people who have like a paper clip in their pocket, or a rock.
Mm. Yeah.
That is them grounding themselves out of their thinking brain, knowing that they know everything already. They just have to go out there and perform. They just go out there and they did all their practice that. So you come into your senses. The last one would be breathing, like just focusing on your breath, which is a really powerful one. It can really scientifically change a lot of things in your physiology. Um, but it works when you trust your brain that it knows everything, and you can get out of your thinking brain trying to solve all the problems. That is the power of mental fitness in a nutshell.
So good. I love it. I love it. And yeah, I noticed that, like, they have like a, a stone in their pocket or something, like,
Yeah. I think Steve Jobs was one of those who he always had like a paper clip or something in his pocket. And that's, you know,
yeah.
whether he knew it or not, it was the way for him to stay grounded and out of his thinking brain to just deliver the speech he needed to deliver.
So good. Okay, so L, leadership and love. The L in Aloha. Leadership isn't just external, it's how we lead ourselves also. How do you define self leadership in the context of habit change and identity?
So the biggest part about habit change and is where I meet people, they've lost confidence in themselves. They can no longer trust themselves. And the reason is because they've made promises that they couldn't keep. and then they've done it repeatedly, right? That's starting over and not finishing, right? How do you get that confidence back? Like, you need to take little steps, right? You need to make little promises to yourself that help build up that confidence again. And with that confidence, you also need some really good clarity, right? Like, not wishy-washy, like getting very clear on what the goal is, getting very clear on what path you're taking and sticking to it, right? Not getting distracted by the shiny things, not being like, oh wait, let me go read this next book or let me try that next new thing. Like, because that's kind of part of the starting over too, is like that book method looks better, or that one looks easier or faster, or so just having that clarity along with the confidence is really important. So once you start rebuilding that self-trust again with little baby steps, then you can start to rebuild the leader in you. And then you start to see the light inside of you start shining. Like, oh, this is who I really am. Like, and sometimes you might be hearing it from other people, but you're not believing it in yourself, because only you know what you do behind closed doors, what you do in your mind. People outside of your life, they see, the good stuff. So they're your cheerleaders, they're cheering you on. So you have to also get really clear on that behind the door stuff that you do alone, and get honest with yourself.
Yeah, that's really good what you say, like, who are you when no one is looking?
Hmm.
Because you can be that person who everybody thinks you are, but who are you when no one is looking, right?
Yeah.
So that's really good. What does it look like when, oh, we just said that one. What does it look like to lead yourself with both discipline and compassion?
So compassion's very important. I think that, like, along my journey into becoming a mental fitness coach, it was learning self-compassion. So
Mm,
um, I came from kind of a stricter German, pull up your pants and get it done. I can do anything kind of mentality, which is good. There's nothing, I still like that side of my personality. Um, but when you knowing that you're going to stumble and fall, you need to have grace. And which is funny, because for, I don't know, maybe like when I was really young, I used to, like, I tripped and fell down. I would be like, it's okay. My middle name's Grace. It's not, but I would say that because, it just, like, if it made me feel like it's okay that I stumbled and fell down. And I've taken that through my life. Like, it's okay to mess up. It's part of growth. You can't, and, like, as a mom now too, like, I really am trying to teach my son, like, especially with social media at that young age, right? Like, it's okay to do it ugly, and it's okay to do it not great. Not everybody needs to be the best and the best, especially in today's world where, like, families go all in on a sport or something for their kid. Um, then the kid who isn't all in, or hasn't been doing it a long time, or isn't gifted at the sport, they feel less than. And I just like, it's not about that. It's about, there's so much more than just being perfect at the sport or the thing. It's about learning while you're doing it messy.
yeah, that
I
is
mean,
so true.
I was just teaching him before to saw. We were cutting down some little sticks, and he was just getting frustrated. And I was like, look, you have to relax. Like, the more you force it, the less like it's gonna happen. You have to, like, find the rhythm, and then get the teeth enough space. And if you wiggle, you get stuck. So, and he was just more frustrated. I was like, I think I'm just gonna have to, like, walk away and let him figure it out on his own.
Yeah, I remember my kids are all grown now. And I remember telling them, like, the more you force something, the worse that it gets, right? You can't continue to force something. You have to find that rhythm in it. So that's so
Yeah.
good. But it's so good, like, just to be able to have that where you do need to look at things in a certain way. But why is self-trust more effective than self-criticism when creating change?
Yeah, but I mean, I think we grew up in a society where like you got you disciplined for results, right? Like you if you get angry, now it works. It does. I will tell you that the negative, the fear of the substance will get you into action.
Hmm.
Um, but it doesn't last long term.
Yeah.
So if you want something to last long term, you need to come in with compassion and kindness and love and acceptance. And then with that, you will find that that smooths out, right? Like I feel like negativity is like being in kind of a steel mill, right? Like it's just hard and cold. But if you do lead with love and kindness or flows and there's a rhythm and it's not painful and it's more enjoyable and it like do you want to struggle your way or do you want to uh, you know kind of like find the rhythm to get through. I don't know if anybody in our crowd is a bike racer, but like if you're in a big pack of cyclists, right? So like in the Tour de
Yeah.
France, if you are tense and trying to fight your way through the pack, you're going to create a crash, right? You're going to there's somebody's going to fall down. But if you decided to be loose and nimble and more relaxed about it, you're going to just find the rhythm through the pack and get to the front of the pack. And that's
Yeah.
how I feel like it is with going at it with a negative or going at it with a positive. You'll get to the same result, but the negative could cause a ripple effect that is bad. Or from what I've experienced in my life and with my clients is if you if you are scared, if you're leading from fear, it is a lot higher and the results are not going to last. So for example, like in business, like if you're leading from scarcity and fear to make money, you're you're not going to perform at the level that will allow you to make money. I don't know,
Hmm.
like if I came into a client call and felt scarcity and fear, the client's not going to want to hire me. Like,
Yeah.
right?
They're gonna
If I'm
feel everything you're doing.
yeah. So if I come in feeling abundance and feeling like that I have everything I need, then the client will feel that and they will want to work with me.
Yeah, it's true. You know, and I I always say, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but I see the similarities because I worked with kids. I was a early childhood educator before, and I see the way kids are, and I see the way that animals are, right? They have that same kind of a flow. If you are working with them and you're working with them in like you if you have that flow with them, it's okay. But if you come in and you're like in this bad mood and you're like trying to make them do things and you're like, oh, you know, I'm just having this bad day, it's going to be a bad day. It's going to be, if you're already starting it off in a bad day, it doesn't matter. They just feel your energy. It's going to be a bad day. If you're working with animals, the same way. If they can feel that energy, my
Mhm.
dogs, I had wolf dogs, and they could tell. They would come and they would like they would like lean into me like as if they were trying to sense me, and I'd be like, I know. Okay, wait, hold on. You know, like because they it was almost like they were telling me like, oh, something's wrong with you, you know.
Yeah.
But I could tell by the way they held their body or even the way their fur rose, you
Mm.
know, because
Mhm.
they would like their fur would rise a certain way, like, I don't know what's wrong with you. You know, and I
Yeah.
feel like, I know, you know, but it's people don't realize it is true, even if you kind of like are on that iffy side, like I don't believe in it, it you carry energy
Mhm.
even if you don't believe in it. So somehow, somehow you're gonna have to get real with it. It is true.
Yeah.
It is true.
Well, and it's like going back with the dogs, like, right? Like if I walked up to the dog and I didn't believe that they're gonna listen to me, right? Then I'm
Yeah,
coming in with that less than, that a little bit of like scarcity mindset, like I'm not gonna be able to control the dog to get the dog to do what I want it to do.
exactly.
It won't do it. But if you come in confident and like I'm the leader, then the dog will listen to you. I mean,
Yeah,
dogs are great reflections of where you are.
exactly. Yeah. I always say I don't mean it in offense because people are like, you're comparing kids with dogs. Kind of, yes. No.
Well, yeah, they're pack animals. Like kids want to
They
be with their friends. They do things in groups. One kid does one thing, the next kid does the next thing. They're very much like animals.
yes, they are. They're protective over all of their stuff, you know. Too funny. Oh, but okay. So, overcoming obstacles. The O in Aloha. Self sabotage often shows up strongest under stress. I know. I do it to myself all the time. I feel like like when I'm stressed out, I do it and I catch myself. But what are the most common obstacles or triggers that pull people back into those old patterns?
It's a lot of like pre-programming, right? Like whether it's what society has pre-programmed us, maybe like what your family has pre-programmed in you or your friend circle. Um, so, for example, when I quit drinking, kind of having that fear of like nobody's going to want to go out with me. Like I'm not going to get invited to parties anymore, right? Nobody's going to ask me to go out to dinner. So when I decided to quit drinking, I made it a point to go out with my friends to the bars to one prove to myself that I could do it, but to show my mind that like I don't have to have a drink to be social in a social set. Right? I can go and have a good time and hang out at the bar and still be completely fine. And not the only the only like I have to check my own comfort level. Like I'm responsible for my comfort level. Not I'm not responsible for anybody at the table's comfort level. They're not comfortable with me not drinking at the bar. That's because they're judging themselves. So just kind of having that belief, like, I can't, um, let's say you wanted to give up sugar completely. I go to a birthday party and not eat their cake. Well, that's on you. Like, I'm sure the person at the party is not gonna be offended if you don't eat the cake. Like, you're making an excuse of why you can't do this goal, right? You're creating your own barrier. So go prove to yourself that you can go see how many birthday parties you can find and not eat the birthday cake and see what happens.
Yeah. I like what you said about like they're judging themselves, right? If they're judging you about you're not drinking, really they're judging themselves. And when I was like really heavy, like 250, I went down to 135, and I felt like the same way except for going to restaurants and things like that. And I was like, I still can go and enjoy a restaurant and go out and eat with people. I just order different, you know? And so I was able to go and order food and sit and have a conversation and have fun with everyone else. It's just I order different, you know?
Yeah.
And it didn't change anything. I still had fun and they understood. And it wasn't anything wrong. So, like you said, see how many birthday parties you can go to. without making that excuse, right?
Yeah. And also, I mean, that is a big one in the weight loss world. Like, but we go out to dinner, like I have all these social things, so I can't lose weight this week because I'm going out to dinner. You can. You do have to like work around your social life, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna go out to dinner, you're gonna change what you eat during the day. You're gonna change what you eat, the hours leading up, you're gonna change the
Mhm.
next hours, right? So yes, that, but you can't also do everything else, right? So knowing what's on the menu, having a plan of what to order. Um, but if you feel like the only way I'm gonna drop the weight is if I never go out to eat again. Well, once you say I'm never gonna never, your brain is every time it wants to go out. So every time I catch somebody saying never or an absolute, I'm like, you have to catch that, and that's when you wanna stop. Like, you never wanna say, "I can never have another drink," or "I can never have another dinner," or "I can never have a donut," right? Like, no, you can have a donut whenever you want, you just have to decide if you really desire the donut and what the donut is gonna do for you, or, like, what the drink is gonna do for you, and then you have to move on from that space. Because if you say never, all your brain is gonna see is that thing.
Yeah. So it's one of those butterflies, right? Never. Oh, butterfly.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So, how does the brain default to familiar coping behaviors even when they no longer serve us?
Well, we are programmed, right? Like, we have neural pathways that are laid down in our brain that are pretty, like, they're pretty they're like the ruts in the
Mm,
farm
yes,
land
yes,
where,
yeah.
tractors have to steer because the ruts are so deep, right? So that's, like, in our brain, right? Like, we can easily just fall back that we've been doing. Um, for example, like, if driving home from work or driving wherever you typically drive, right? Like, if one day they decide to start doing construction on your route, it's gonna take you a few times to remember not to go that way
Yeah.
because that's your rut, your way home. And so we I kinda now forgot the question.
How does the brain default to familiar coping behaviors
Yeah, so
even when they don't serve us anymore?
yeah, so that is how it happens, is because the rut is so it's familiar, and
Mm,
our brain likes safety. Like, our brain doesn't like change, and so when we revert back, it's just going to where it's safe. I remember that. Um, say it too, like in a negative relationship, that feels safe, so I'm gonna continue to go to that relationship pattern, because your brain wants to feel safe. It wants to feel known and familiar, and it's like being in that rut, right? Like, I don't even have to think about it. It just tells me which way to go. But our brain wants to one our brain is constantly trying to just conserve energy and do the least amount of work. So when it gets in the rut, it has less work to do. And it wants to feel safe. So it goes back to earth very quickly. Uh, and you'll see, like, as you change your thinking, wow, that thought still comes up, right? Like, or that craving still comes up. I can work through it, it's fine. But it's interesting how, like, something will trigger you and you'll have a craving for some so with drinking, right? Like, I get triggered and I have a craving, and then I work through it, and I don't ever say never. Like, I just say, okay, well, it is possible you could, go to your friend's house tonight and have a drink, and that's fine. I tell myself it's fine if that's what you want to do. And then I just say, okay, so then let's, like, play it forward. So then how are you going to feel tomorrow? Is it going to be worth it? Then I'm like, oh no, okay, I'm over it. But I think too, like, I don't coach around relationships, but the same thing with a relationship. Like, if you were trying to break a pattern with a relationship, you will find how you revert back very easily to an old pattern because it's safe and it's familiar. to play that forward, like, is this what I really want? Is this how I really want to react? You can start to change it.
Yeah. You know, talking about relationships, because I was in a domestic violence relationship, right? And so getting into that rut where it's safer to just stay quiet. Something comes up, then you just revert back to the old, okay, fine, I'm not going to say nothing already, because that's the way that it was, where keeping quiet, staying safe, saying nothing was just better. Well, it wasn't better, it was just safer. It was, you know, that's the silence of domestic violence was a place where I could live and know that it didn't cause problems. If you just stayed quiet, it was okay. So if something comes up and my husband now, if he says something and I don't like it and it escalates, I'm like, don't say nothing then. Instead of addressing it in a better way, where we're adults, we can talk. I'm not in
Yeah,
that same relationship. I'm not in a domestic violence relationship. I'm not in that same thing. Why go back? Right? Why
right.
go back into that? But I do sometimes catch myself in that, where I go back into that shut down, be quiet thing. And so we went to this movie, and it was called Christie. It was a domestic violence movie, but it was a boxing movie. Now, my husband's a championship boxer.
Oh,
He
cool.
was, and he loves going to these boxing movies, right? And so he tells me, "Oh, there's a movie. It's boxing, and I'm busy and I'm writing and all this stuff." And I said, "Okay, sure." Not paying attention, really, really not paying attention. All I heard was movie, boxing, K. I'm like, "Okay, what time? Okay, 9. Okay, looking at the time. Okay, sure. Let me finish this." And keeping it really like out there.
Yeah.
We get to the movie, and I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is now getting to me," because I'm seeing things in this movie, and I'm telling him, "Oh my gosh, like this is like real," because I can now see, and I'm starting to feel those feelings, like, oh my gosh, hearing the way he's talking to her, seeing the way he's isolating her, and all the stuff that I went through. And so I'm telling him, I'm like, "Oh, this is so real, this is like so real." And he goes, "Oh, it gets worse." I look at him like, "You you know this stuff?" Like, "And you didn't tell me?" Like, "How do you not tell me?" I was like shocked, because I'm thinking, this is a movie and you didn't tell me. And so in my brain, I'm thinking, did he just not want to tell me? Now I'm kind of like defensive, right? What is wrong with him? Why didn't he tell me? Did he just not want to tell me? Or, you know, and so I'm like, okay, I can handle this. I'm okay. I went through it. I'm not, like, I'm not gonna get triggered by this movie. I'm good. I'm telling myself, I'm good. I'm good. I can do this. But this movie gets really bad. I mean, really bad. She gets like stabbed by him, shot by him, all this stuff. Like, it gets really bad. And so, well, she survives anyway. And after the movie, I told my husband, "Okay, hun, if you knew about the movie," now I could have went into that whole thing of, "So mad at you, I'm not going to talk to you right now. This is just so
Mhm.
wrong of you. You should have known better." And all in my head, right? You could just keep it all in your head. Go through the whole scenario all by yourself in your brain. But then I had to talk to him, because I did feel like a flip of a switch kind of thing. And so I told him, "Hun, you know, I can now talk to you from a place of healing because I've been through the work. But next time you know something like this, you need to tell me because that was intense. She
Mm,
went through a lot. I didn't go through like all of that she went through, but I went through a lot and I could see the things that she went through. A lot was, like similar to what I went through. So before you take me to a movie like that,
it's
give
close.
me some heads up. Give me some heads up. Give me some warning, you know? And I actually had to tell him because when he said, I forgot what he said. And I was really short with him. I was like, like I said something like really crass. And I was like, whoa, where'd that come from? And I thought, I know where that came from. I know where that came from, you know, because I was being super defensive already. And it
Yeah.
had nothing to do with him, it had everything to do with the movie. And I think I fell into the rut, right? I was riding the rut already.
Yeah.
And so, in order for me to get out of the rut and know where I was, I had to be able to talk to him and say, okay, this is not good. I know the feelings that I got through the movie, and
Mhm.
you need to give me some warning next time.
That that takes good communication on your part, right? Like to recognize the trigger, the shortness,
Yeah,
and then to step out of the rut to talk to them. But
yeah,
you got put in the rut, but you were able to get yourself out and with them and
yeah,
let them know what you need, which is really important.
yeah. And, like I said, I could talk to him because I come from a place of healing. If I
Mhm.
wasn't, then it
Yeah.
probably, a person that hasn't done the work, right? Hasn't gone through the healing, they probably wouldn't have been able to do that. And so, those kind of things, to be aware and
Yeah.
yeah. So,
One thing to just be mindful of too, like with the healing, and I think this is like healing with domestic violence or healing with grief,
mhm,
with just I guess any sort of, I mean, I could even use my drinking, right? Like having that compassion to know, even though I've done the work, that I can still go back, right? Like I can still get put back in the rut, right? When triggered. But because I've done the healing, I can step out of the rut. So, like, for example, if I had a drink back in the rut, I could come back out of the rut. That's and I feel like doing that, like I could pull myself back out of the rut. That is a space of healing, right? And for you to say, like, I was in the rut for a little bit in the movie, and then I came back out and had a
mhm,
very, rational conversation around it.
yeah. So I think like in this next question, how can you explain the self-sabotage loop and how people can interrupt it in real time? I think that's what we're talking about right now.
Mhm.
To interrupt it in real time for us to be able to do that and to recognize that and pull ourselves out of the rut that is
Yeah.
that interruption in real time. You know.
One way I like to explain this is the negativity spiral or the self-sabotaging spiral. It's like a vortex. So once it starts, it can turn on like a tornado. And you need to realize, like, if the tornado has happened and you can't get out of it, you're not broken. So
Mhm.
let's say, given your example, like, had you been triggered in the movie and you couldn't get out of the tornado, the spiraling thoughts, right? Like in that and deeper in the rut, that's okay. Like we are only as strong as some of the things we've experienced. Now, when you're in the spiral and the deep in the you still have to have faith that over time you can get out of it. And one way I like to think about it, and we can kind of pull in some other Hawaii roots, is like surfing. So with mental fitness, with habit change, we can we can surf the waves, right? Like we can surf the craving waves, we can surf the triggers. until they're too big. And if you have a life incident that becomes too big and you can't surf it, that's okay. It's like being knocked over by a big wave and you're under that wave getting in the washing machine effect. And you have to, in that washing machine effect, know that it's not going to last forever. You are going to come back up to the surface. You just have to stay relaxed and let the washing machine effect take you, and then pop up to the surface, breathe, and then swim to shore and quit surfing because that wave got too big. And so that's kind of like when life throws you curveballs or throws you, throws you things that just you can't handle. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're not capable. It doesn't mean the work didn't work. It just means that the work you did wasn't ready for this tsunami wave or this,
Right.
class 5 rafting trip.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was born and raised here in Hawaii, and I can tell you I've been turned.
Yes.
So I know. And it's not like you stop going in the water. It's not like you stop going out in the ocean, after being tossed in the wave and end up in that washing machine. It's you just like you said, you relax, you let the wave, you ride that wave and you end up at the top after, or right up onto the sand.
Yeah.
Whichever happens first, it happens.
Yeah. And then it's kinda going back to that in that washing machine effect, like, in that spiraling, having love and compassion for yourself, like, it's okay. Like, I am still gonna be okay. This is a big one. This was a lot of triggers, and
Yeah. And
and
during that time, it's scary. It's You come out and your breath is, you're like, and it's hard, but you survive it and you come out from the other side and it's okay. So I completely understand that. So H, the health and healing, H in Aloha. True change isn't sustainable without addressing what's underneath. How does chronic stress, burnout, and unresolved emotional strain affect habit formation?
so, like I was saying earlier, like, our brain wants the safe and the least amount of energy. Um, but when you read that question, what I really think about is, like, we become so accustomed to uncomfortable. Like, we might be complaining about struggle or, hardness and seeing the negativity, but what is more frightening is when we sit in the discomfort, and we think it's normal. When we think that, the discomfort we're feeling in our gut or the ailments we have, that's just part of, society. That's just what we need to do. That's what we need to tolerate to be successful. Um, it's when we just sit with it. So the one, like, analogy I think of is like women in their shoes, right? Like, they're the most beautiful shoe and they make you look good and they're killing your feet. And you see all these women who have 2 pairs of shoes. Like, but I think that's just such a great analogy is 'cause, like, what are we willing to tolerate and to look good on the outside? What are we willing to tolerate to be successful? What are we willing to tolerate to be in a relationship? What are we willing to tolerate um, to meet our goals? Right? Like, we just we just don't realize. For example, with weight loss, you wear the same clothes, they get tighter and tighter, and because it's such a slow, steady process, you don't really notice that they're tighter. Or with drinking, right? Like, people who, um, have alcohol use disorder, it's a slow process. You slowly start drinking more and more, and you just kinda think it's normal, and, you know, and you look back and you're like, wait a second. Right? Or like you take a look at your clothes and you're like, wait a second, these are really uncomfortable. You've just learned to tolerate them. And I think the analogy a lot of people use is like the boiling water in a frog, like the frog in the boiling water will just slowly die, right? But you can't put the frog would jump right out of the boiling water. But it's like that slow boil that we get used to feeling eh, or we get used to. And like with one thing, like with menopause, I think like so much marketing and so many stories out there that like when you're going through menopause, it's just normal to feel that way. It's just normal to gain weight. It's just normal. And so then you're like, well, I guess I'm just normal and I just have to accept it. And it's like, no, like you don't. You could change things in your life to help you go through menopause in a better way.
With the weight, I was losing weight, and because I was on this yo-yo thing before so many times in my life, I didn't I wasn't changing my clothes, right? So I was losing weight and losing weight and losing weight, thinking I'm just going to gain it back anyway. But I was continuing to lose weight, and I kept using the same clothes. And my daughter, she came out and she was like, "Oh my gosh, mom, you really need to buy new clothes." And I was like, "No, I'm fine, I'm fine." And then she was like, "No, you really have to buy new clothes." And so we went in, and she was like, "Seriously, you have to buy, at least go in and buy another pants. You can't keep like cinching up the belt, cinching up the belt. You can't." She's like, "It looks bad." That's how she was talking to me already. "Mom, it looks bad. Just, you can't do it anymore." And so I went into the store, and I went and bought I went to go try on these pants. And when I went to try on the pants, I came out, and I seriously was like, "Oh my gosh, I need to go find someone." And so I went to go look for the lady there, and I'm like, so these pants, I think they're wrong." And then she's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "So I tried on these pants, and because you see right here, it says 9, and this one is 9 also, but." And then she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Because the pants that I'm trying on, they say 9, and I need to find some pants." And she's like, "So the pants you're fitting is 9?" And I'm like, "I think so, but." I'm like, but I really could not understand the fact that I was fitting in a size 9 pants. And it really shocked me. Like, I definitely thought, like, is this like some European pants?
I think there's a typo in here.
Right, right.
Did my eyes stop working?
Like, am I buying the wrong pants? Is this like children's size? Give me some adult pants that I'm gonna walk out with, because this is kind of weird. And I was like, this is the strangest thing. So I was literally like shaking, like, this cannot be right. And so I bought 3 pants, and I walked out like, this cannot be. This totally cannot be, because I am supposed to be walking out with a size 16 pants. This is just not right. Because it's so, like, the size difference was so
Yeah.
huge, right? And that's why she was like, "Mom, you really seriously cannot be keep on. This belt thing cannot work anymore."
You have too much extra material.
But in my brain, I could not think about the clothes being any smaller. And even walking past, like, the window at the store, looking at the reflection in the mirror, in the glass, I looked, and I was like, "Who is that person?" you know
Yeah.
because I constantly saw myself as so big. that I couldn't see myself. So
Yeah.
the things that your brain does, the mind games that it plays, you really do need to start seeing yourself in a better light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of visualization with my clients, right? Like visualizing their future self having had lost the weight, having had made all the changes in their life, right? Like so that the brain starts to see that like, oh, that is possible, right? Like and then when you get there, that's where the identity has to change, right? So like you're in a size 9 pant. Like now I need to identify as this person, not be in disbelief, like I can't believe that's me in the mirror, right? You have to step into that identity. So then I go through like a process of helping them do practice it on a daily basis, like really integrating, like this is who I am now. I'm no longer that person anymore, right? I am a person who only wears a size 9. I never wear a size ever like and you really start practicing that because you got to retrain your brain that you are this person now because like the ruts you'll go back, right?
Yeah.
And so shifting that identity after having met the goal is really important, but actually starting before you even meet the goal is also really important because you want to start acting as if you're in that identity today, right? So like in weight loss, right? You want to start acting like that person who eats like someone who's weighs 10, 20, 30 pounds less. And great. You have been working on your identity. So when you get to your goal, now it feels real. And now you're there and you've been working on the identity the whole time. So if you stay in that identity, it should stay. Your goal should stick.
Yeah. Because that was a shock to me. I couldn't see it for myself. It took me a while. So, how can
Your daughter,
mental,
your daughter was
yeah, she saw it. She's like, it's got to go, mom. How can mental fitness practices support long term emotional and behavioral health? I think you explained that part, like seeing yourself as that person before you actually see yourself as that person.
yeah.
Yeah, so good. So, an acute awareness, the last A in Aloha. Awareness often becomes a turning point. Was there a moment in your own journey when something clicked about identity and behavior?
So I would say like the when I finally stopped drinking, it wasn't like a rock bottom moment. It wasn't, you know, it was just I had been doing the work, a lot of mental fitness training, and I was doing not and not necessarily all of it was for to quit drinking, but I do remember the day I just decided. And it's funny because I'd done a lot of work, but I think it was the accumulation of one deciding, like cutting off all other options, two having a really deep why you want to do it, like playing your life forward, like having kept this goal, like what would my life look like, um, and and reminding yourself on a regular basis, like if I keep on this path, and it could be around food, it could be around finances, it could be in a relationship, what will my life look like? And so when you start to pull in all the data of that decision, that cutting off all other options becomes really clear. And when you can cut off all the other options, it is like freedom. Like it didn't happen overnight. Like I don't want to like just cut off all other options and then you feel free. Yes, it does take work. People can get there quickly, but yeah, it's that's the freedom is because you've cut off all the other options. That's the acute awareness of it.
Well, like you said, it's like freedom, you know, and it is, me finally literally escaping out of the domestic violence and choosing that this is enough. I need to choose myself. I stayed in it for a long time because I had actually family living in the house. So I was like, how do I continue? How do I stay there so that they can have a roof over their head? Or choose my life, you know?
Mhm.
And I was like, no, I have to choose me, that kind of thing. And then I had to tell them, you'll be okay. You guys got to find somewhere else to live, right? Things
Yeah.
like that. Like, you have to choose you. You have to choose that awareness. You have to be able to say, yeah, choose, and it's not selfish, it's not selfish. So that's a good thing. So
It is
how does
a lot of self-love. It's not selfish, it's a lot of self-love.
yeah, and I had to think too is that like loving myself enough to say that's enough, and knowing that for me to survive, I would be there for my kids and my grandkids. If I didn't love myself enough, then I give up on them too. You have to ask yourself that question also, right? You give up on the rest of your future because now what you're thinking about other people, that's that doesn't work. So
Very
how
good.
does awareness change the way people respond to discomfort or setbacks?
How does awareness affect it?
Yeah. How does awareness change the way people respond to discomfort or setbacks?
So that kind of goes back to that positive or negative, right? Like we talked about in the beginning. So if you're aware of your reaction, right? So um, then you can take a pause and not
Yeah.
react, right? So um, awareness is lack of awareness would just be react response. Awareness allows you to take a pause and then make a choice versus just reacting.
That's good. For someone listening today, what awareness do you hope they can walk away with that could change how they approach growth?
That change is possible. Like I just am super passionate that people have the ability to change. People have the ability to get out of their rut. People have the ability to step out of their comfort zone, knowingly step out of their comfort zone to make the change that's going to feel uncomfortable, because on the other side of the uncomfortable is the freedom, is um, the self-trust and confidence starts to show up.
Yeah, that is so good. That self confidence starts to come back, right?
Mhm.
When people look back on their journey of change, what do you hope they'll say about who they became, not just what they achieved?
A lot of people that I work with, the other side is they became confident. They became um, they another thing that I feel like is they find their voice. They find a way to get their point across. They find their identity that they knew they always were. Like I feel like, that inner child work, like
Yes.
getting back into your roots of like who you were really meant to be is still there. And I think that's the person that we really need to keep alive.
Yeah, that is so good. And what legacy do you hope your work leaves for people who are tired of starting over and ready to trust themselves again?
I want to leave a sense of peace in the world, right? Without the struggle, without the fight. And I would like to say that, like every person I've touched, that they feel more at peace because they know they can change the way they think. They can change the way that their habits and step into the healthiest version of themselves. Nobody wants to be unhealthy. Nobody. I can't like if I ever heard if you know of anybody who said, "Yeah, I love being unhealthy." I mean, being unhealthy feels so great. Like,
No, I don't know a single person.
yeah.
That is so good. Erin, thank you so much for the clarity, the compassion, and the science backed wisdom that you bring into this conversation today about change. Because I had this dream. I was at Lisa Nichols' retreat and I came back. And I don't remember the last time that I remembered my dreams. Like, I don't know, I thought it was just age. But, you know, but I had a dream. And in my dream, have you ever seen the musical The Cats? You
I
know?
have not seen it.
Okay, so in Cats, there's this big guy, and in my dream, the guy was standing in front of me, this big guy, and I'm looking, I'm trying to see the coach that was in front because at the Lisa Nichols retreat, we were talking to our SAC coaches, and I was waiting for my turn in my dream. And I'm like waiting there, and I'm trying to see, and he's in front of me, and I could hear what he was talking about. And he was talking about roses, and I'm thinking, oh, I like roses. And so I'm kind of leaning in, trying to listen to him talk. And he turns around and he tells me, a rose has always been a rose. And as he says that, I got like startled awake, and I'm sitting up in my bed and I'm thinking, a rose has always been a rose. And in that moment, I realized like a rose has always been a rose. During my um, retreat, I was sitting with one of the SAC coaches in real life, not in the dream, but he was
Mhm.
telling me that he felt that when I speak, I wasn't speaking from my soul. I was holding back a lot of the things. And so in the dream, I was like, a rose has always been a rose. It reminded me that we're always who we've always been. We just need to remember who we are,
Yeah.
you know? And so I'm like, with what you're doing, the work that you're doing, it's just reminding us that we're not broken. We are patterned, and patterns can be rewired, you
Mhm.
know, and we're who we've always been. God created us, you know, to be creatives. We're created, I don't know whether you believe in God or whether you don't, or whether you believe in a higher power or not. But for anyone who's feeling frustrated or stuck or exhausted from just restarting, this is a voice that you just need to lean into. Because Eryn, you have just spoke such gems. Because yeah, it's so good to know that we, we can move out of those ruts. We don't have to continue to stay in there. And there is change. There is always change.
Yeah.
So, so good. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And everyone, you can connect with Erin on her website. It's adventuresofhealth.com, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And um, email is Erin at adventuresofhealth.com. And I will put all of these links into the notes at
Can I
the
just
end.
say one more thing that
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
planned this, it hadn't launched, but I just launched a program called 67 Days of Becoming Her. And so it's a group,
Nice.
it will be a group and it'll be 67 days of making one change. So if you're interested in making a habit change, it's just $67 for 67 days. There'll be content every day and a community, and then like one call per week with me.
That is so nice. Awesome. So just send me that link and I will add it into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put it in there. So everyone, in the notes, you'll have the website, um, Erin's speaking website, or yeah, it's slash speaking, Erin's email, and then the 67 days. That is so good. That is
Yeah.
so awesome. Thank you so much again, everyone. Change doesn't come from shame, consistency doesn't come from willpower, and becoming begins when identity leads the way. Erin, thank you again for using your voice to help people stop restarting and start becoming. God's blessings always. And until next time, thank you for being on the Walking in Aloha Let's Talk Story podcast. My name is Michelle Ebalaroza-Kawano, and this is Eryn Kubinski. Thank you again. Aloha and ahui ho. Bye
Thank you.
now.
Bye.